All right, I think we're live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Believe in Rams, presented by FanDuel, also streaming on Buzzer. So you, of course, can catch all the Rams preseason action streaming on Buzzer. Join with me is a very special perspective. I'm really excited because I've been texting with Seth Payne all game long, trying to get your intel, who is going to be my co-host for the next 20, 25 minutes. Former NFL defensive tackle. You're also host of Believe in Texans. You should check out his work because he's all over the place when it comes to Texans. But you know what? We put you in a Rams hat, and we had you kind of give us your intel. What'd you think?
It was fun. It was fun, and like the kind of putting on a skin suit of a Rams fan for 3 hours. I've been on the message boards. I don't understand why Sean McVay is so deeply in love with Stetson Bennett and why he has this undying devotion to him. And I got excited about Ty Simpson. I thought McVay handled this really well. I mean, the first 3 passes were bootlegs, and then you start a little diet of throwing to Max Klare and the other tight ends. And I'm starting to wonder, all right, is this all by design that these are all relatively short passes? They're not trying to throw past the sticks on third down. And I think part of it was just you couldn't trust those Rams offensive linemen that I had to strain my eyeballs to find out where they were on the depth chart. And then that in the fourth quarter, man, that last scoring drive, he's spreading the ball around. He's attacking deep. I thought that was really impressive for a guy that hasn't gotten a whole bunch of meaningful reps in camp. And Stetson Bennett has, several years of experience in the system over him. I thought that was a really good debut. 21 for 25 for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think if you're a box score watching, that it doesn't really show justice to the fact that he got more aggressive as the game went on, and that he kind of showed an ability to throw to all areas of the field, threw some touch passes to the sideline. Not pristine accuracy all the time, but had to make some throws under duress. Got smacked the hell out of it at the end of the first half. So it was nice to see him come back. I thought that was a good debut for Ty Simpson.
Yeah, here is Seth Payne, former defensive tackle. So you kind of know from your lens, that's what you're looking at. Look, we know Coach McVay does not start his starters. And so I think what was really interesting, guys, when you look at the game, and just from my vantage point, I'm at Rams HQ, as much as I possibly can. And so leading up to, training camp was the rumors of Jimmy Garoppolo. Is he going to retire? Okay, is he not? Well, they decided to kind of move on and sort of hand the keys of the number 2, you think, to Stetson Bennett, who, like you said, he's been with the Rams organization since 2023. So now he gets a real shot at being the backup, being the number 2. But then they draft Ty Simpson out of Alabama. And you're like, okay, this could actually be a quarterback battle. Now, in training camp, it just seemed like no one really Stetson didn't take his foot off the gas, and you didn't really see a huge emergence out of Ty, but you also didn't see, like you said, a lot of opportunity. Now you kind of measure them in actual game day reps side by side in a way. Stetson getting taken out shortly in the first quarter, and then really Ty Simpson's just kind of running the show. What do you make of that? Because in my mind, I'm like, does this mean he's protecting Stetson, so he's taking him out? Or does he just still want to see more out of Ty Simpson before he makes that clear-cut decision?
It's all, again, as I wear this Rams fan suit for a few hours, you got to balance out. All right, I like the upside of Simpson. I'd love to see him just get every chance to be a guy who can make an impact if he comes into a game this year, or if he's, if he ends up being the guy next year. From Sean McVay's perspective, I think he realistically wants to have his cake and eat it too, and he should. Like the Rams are a Super Bowl favorite. Two or three games missed to a Matt Stafford injury. Yeah. That's not the death blow for the season. The Texans last year lost C.J. Stroud I'm not comparing C.J. Stroud to Matt Stafford, but you lose your starting quarterback. Davis Mills comes in and wins a few games for you. And if they had a rookie quarterback in there, even if it was a guy with promise, maybe that doesn't happen. But Davis Mills knows the system and is a veteran quarterback, much more of a veteran than Stetson Bennett, but knowing the system. And because he's last year was Nick Caley's first year as offensive coordinator, but there are a lot of similarities to what Davis was doing when he was a rookie. So I think Sean McVay probably has a comfort level with Stetson that he might not think he has a high ceiling, but man, if Stafford goes down for 2 games, you want to be sure that he's dialed in and prepared and ready to go. And then maybe depending on what Ty Simpson has done in the preseason or in practice, he can keep him in reserve. And that's what I think will probably happen over these next couple of preseason games. They're going to see how much, Stetson Bennett's not going to learn McVay's system any better than he already does in the next 2 weeks of practice. Ty Simpson's got his feet wet in an NFL football game versus backups, preseason, et cetera, but he's put on a uniform, he's gone out and he's played against an NFL team. It'll be really interesting to see how he treats him these next couple of weeks, if he feels like there's more in him and that, man, all right, if Stafford goes down and whether it's 2 games or 4 games or more, we need upside if it ends up being more than a couple of games. And I think you've got a lot more upside, obviously, with Ty Simpson.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's just fascinating because, like you said, even if it's CJ Stroud going down or a Stafford, it doesn't matter. You don't want to not have your number one available. But in the event he does go down, someone goes down, you want to have the best insurance policy. And that's why this whole situation with sort of Stetson being the number 3 for so long, and Ty Simpson, according to some of the trending discussions, saying, wow, Rams rookie Ty Simpson looked lights out in his debut, throwing 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Dean Connor scores 2 touchdowns. There's a lot of upside to what they're saying with regards to some of the rookies. And of course, it's preseason, so it's so hard to take actual stock of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But Go ahead. Yeah.
No, and I'm trying to look it through Sean McVay's lens too. And I think that like sometimes, guys who are great offensive coordinators and guys who are great quarterback coaches, sometimes they get so close to the situation and they love their guys. One of the reasons they're good coaches is because they love their guys. And Sean McVay's got a whole lot of passion. And with Stetson Bennett, he probably loves him, and he sees the best in him and he wants to get the most out of him. But he hasn't been tested. That love hasn't been tested with regular season football. It's dicey. It's a big leap to take with a rookie, even if you know that he's got more upside. Like, obviously they drafted him, they loved him. But does he have more upside as a rookie just by flat out being able to get it done? I think one of the things that they'll really be watching both in practice and in these next couple preseason games is how does he manage risk? Because that's the other thing about a backup coming in is, man, first do no harm. It's the Hippocratic oath of second string quarterbacks. So, today I can't remember. He didn't seem like he put the ball in harm's way that I can remember. It was, if anything, he was really safe early on. That'll probably be the big test over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, the Rams' first preseason game in the books on the road against Kansas City was very hot out there in KC. And the next game they have is Saints at home, 1 o'clock kick. And that's why these storylines are really interesting because, like you said, Seth, look, you hope that you don't have to play your backup, but a lot of who's getting cut and who is going to make the team and power through with the anticipation and hopes that the Rams have of going all the way to the Super Bowl here in Los Angeles on Valentine's Day, which is always a question. I wonder how that's going to feel with the couples when they're saying, sorry, honey, I got to watch this Super Bowl game.
That's what, listen, if you're with a woman that isn't into the Rams going to the Super Bowl, it's probably, if she can't even, if she can't even just go along with it for a day and act like she loves it, I feel like that's probably not meant to be.
You better start having the conversation now. If you're wanting to take your girlfriend, your wife, or, guys too, not every guy's, you got to start having the conversation now. Drop that seed. Say, hey, listen, honey, we're going to hang out on the day before Valentine's Day. But anyways, we're getting ahead of ourselves, Seth. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Other things from preseason game 1 for the Rams against the Chiefs that I was taking note of. Again, McVay does not start his starters. So we're taking a look at a lot of rookies. We're taking a look, of course, obviously, the QB2 battle. What else stood out to you from your vantage point? We saw a lot of Max Klare getting in on the action. What was your takeaway from the rest of the guys you were looking at?
I was really excited to see some Max Klare, and I was reading the write-ups leading into it. People were wondering how much he might play and everything, and man, he ended up playing a lot. And I was curious to, when I could pick him out, I tried to watch him block a few times, and the moments when I was watching him specifically block, I thought he did an adequate job. I know he's like, that's not going to be his calling card, but I think the one Stetson Bennett pass that was underthrown to him in the end zone, I would have loved to see a better thrown pass there, because I thought that was probably going to be a touchdown. But the defensive back, Max Klare, did a good job basically breaking up that interception. But man, he seemed to be exactly in the right spot and working with a rookie quarterback, and you can see his hands and you can see his ability to get open. I'd love to see more of him. And I don't know how you fit into that crowded tight ends room. Obviously, he's going to be on the roster this year, but that was a promising start by Max Klare.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, Seth. The clear-cut wide receiver 3 hasn't really been indicated. Coach McVay has mentioned Kanata Mumfield, Jordan Whittington as a couple of the sort of maybe potentially 3 and 4 there in the wide receiver. But, I guess it's a good problem to have. You've got like 100 tight ends that are really, really good. You've got some really great wide receivers. CJ Daniels finished the game with 2 catches, 18 yards. He was targeted 5 times. Yeah,
and the last one, and the last one was a nice one. I ended up watching, because I wanted to watch CJ Daniels specifically, so I found myself watching a lot of CJ Daniels college highlights during the game, and I'm like, yeah, that guy, come on, get the ball to CJ Daniels, and that's where I wanted to see Ty Simpson push the ball downfield more. And going back to, all right, are they being conservative by design, or on the TV copy you can't quite see if he's turning down open receivers downfield? I thought one of the promising things he did on that last touchdown drive, it looked like he was going to go deep, and then he ended up checking it down, but there was a defensive holding on that play to whomever was going to be the intended receiver. I ended up having to watch the NFL Network for this. I couldn't watch the app, so I was hearing Trent Green talk nonstop about Chiefs fans and not show me any replay. I love Trent Green. But he was talking about the Chiefs the entire time. I had to watch Chiefs rookies singing songs on the sideline. But that part of it, I think the appetite to push the ball downfield was definitely there, and he had the accuracy to do it, and did some nice things in this game.
Yeah. Here was Seth Payne, host of Believe in Texans. We stole him for preseason game 1 as the Rams leave Kansas City with a win, 20-12. A great showing, or certainly a positive showing, what you want to see out of the rookie Ty Simpson. Of course, as you know, McVay not starting his starters. We're not going to see any action from Puka.
They don't even travel. I didn't realize that. I just wanted to see a Puka on the sideline or something.
Oh, really? Yeah. I mean, they got work to do in Woodland Hills, and they got some.
Let me tell you, Erin, one of the first guys in the NFL that I ever spoke to, like from an NFL team, was Les Sneed. He was a junior scout with the Jaguars. I was a stupid kid that didn't know what the heck was going on, because I went to Cornell, and nobody had been drafted out of there in forever. So he picked me up at the airport when I visited Jacksonville, and I got to know Les Sneed. And it was immediately impressed with it. It was for a kid from the Northeast meeting this nice, genteel Southern gentleman, Les Sneed. I'm not going to say that I foresaw greatness for him, but he was one of my favorite people when I was with the Jaguars. And it's been really cool to watch the way him and Sean McVay operate. I love that. Anytime anybody gets a newfangled notion, like the Texans are doing some, cool stuff with some of the way that they operate, and you can always say, well, yeah, that's how the Rams are doing it.
Yeah.
Oh, the coaches aren't at the combine. I don't know, the Rams seem to be doing all right. So
I know. Yeah. It is a copycat league. And I love that you said that about Les, because he's just beloved in the organization and he's very friendly, always says hi to everybody. And I always think about it too. I'm like, this guy's like, should be pretty stressed out, has a lot to think about. And yet he's got a really wonderful demeanor. He's always trying to, he seems like he's always making sure everyone is comfortable. Meanwhile, him and Sean McVay concocting, like you said, innovation beyond, because they don't send, they don't go to the combine. They're going to potentially go to, the other side of the world for like a day or two. They just do things differently. In fact, Kevin Demoff, the president of the Rams, calls it being defiantly original. So it's cool to see that, they're doing it differently, but it works. It's working. I guess it's working.
Defiantly original. Well, like drafting Ty Simpson in a year when you've got the Super Bowl just laying out there for you. I mean, that's all water under the bridge. And that's a classic kind of move that the Rams can make, because kind of like Belichick back in the day could make some moves that if anybody else did it, they would get lambasted for it.
Yes.
And when the Rams draft Ty Simpson, people are kind of like, not what I would do, but they are a pretty damn successful organization.
Yeah, they are. They're the best. I mean, think about how good their last, few drafts. They very rarely have not picked some up that were maybe later round picks that were real contributions. By the way, I do want to comment the someone Gen Z elder. Love this. As a female Rams fan, this will be our best V-Day yet. My partner is a Packers fan though. So I guess, that NFC Championship game, which I think, what is it? Is it the 31st or the 30th? But yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think, this team is a team that is all in. But the reason the Ty Simpson pick, I feel like, needed to happen is because you're giving Stafford the leverage that in the event he retires, what are you going to, who are you? Yeah. You're just going to think Joe Burrow is going to be available to pick up in free agency? I mean, what's the Rams to do?
And that's the thing too, like, the long term, and that's the hard part about being a GM is just balancing the short term and the long term. You got to make some hard decisions. You're like the parent that tells the kids they can't go to Disney World this year because we got to plan for your college future, and it's hard. Have to be the adults in the room. Well, the coaches tend to be the impetuous children that want what they want now, and fans. I don't know. Coaches and fans are probably equal levels of impetuous, I would say. So I think but that's where it comes into in the evaluation process of Ty Simpson. I think that McVay has to do everything he can he's got one bird in the hand, which is, all right, Stetson Bennett knows the system. He's been here. He's taken the reps. I know what I have in him. At the same time, so we need to get him his reps in practice. We need to be sure that he's dialed in. At the same time, you got to be totally open to Ty Simpson maybe just rocketing through your development plan. And I'm guessing McVay has a really good system by now of like, okay, this is how we teach the system. This is where we want to see. These are the milestones we want to see from a quarterback. And I think Ty Simpson probably passed a lot of those this week. And, you see these situations sometimes where coaches are trying to balance the safety part of it with, okay, what's the upside of Ty Simpson? And you get to that point where, okay, Ty Simpson's checked off enough boxes. And if he comes in relief of Matt Stafford for any reason, for any number of games, it's not like you can't win every game. I mean, no matter how much the defense might really, really be good this year, you're not going to win every single game 14-13. And it might be as simple as long as Ty Simpson is making the right decisions and he's not putting the ball in harm's way, you've just got a much greater chance of if you need that 2-minute drive at the end of a game. If you're down 14, I would trust Ty Simpson a lot more to be that guy.
Fascinating. This is so fascinating.
I base all of that on one preseason game.
No, I think that's what we do here. We just, we already know, we think in the media world how this is all going to work out, barring any injuries. But, in all seriousness, it is very interesting. There's so much that goes into the strategy. It's not just getting to see these guys play during preseason. It's what comes after that. One of the things I was also curious about was how we were going to see, debut of Jarquez Hunter. Again, a rookie last year, had some high expectations. I think he was 4th round running back last year and didn't really see any playing time. And Blake Corum the year before, also a rookie, didn't see a lot of playing time. So it's, McVay is masterful at trying to infuse young guys, but give them time and to be patient with them. And so I think for me, as we kind of just put a button on this, and the Rams have another preseason game next week against the Saints, and this one will be at home. And I think to me, the question I have, as I'll leave you, Seth, is what do you think preseason game? Do you have answers for how you think preseason game 2 will look in terms of what that means for the season?
It's very okay. So I guess the first would be, does Ty Simpson get the start? And is that a possibility, or is there no chance in hell that he's going to get the start? I don't want to put that out there if he does.
And what does that mean? And what does that mean? Right.
Yeah, I think the biggest, and when this is a hard part with the Rams because they're so careful with their veterans, is I'd also like to see Ty Simpson. I could say good things about Ty Simpson, but every good thing that I say that I saw today, I have to couch it with, all right, he was playing against a bunch of backups, but he was also playing behind a bunch of college free agents on the offensive line that had some good moments, but also had some spotty moments. Can I see him out there with more of the difference makers, with guys that are actually running the right routes and in the right spot at the right time? So in taking that next step, I think, you've got to see more Ty Simpson, and and maybe, does it mean a start or not? I mean, he got plenty of playing time today. I think that's the big thing that I would want to see. And then, obviously with Max Klare, I mean, like Dean Connors today with 2 receiving touchdowns and looked good, but he's a classic. All right. It's preseason. It's going against backups. He's a local kid. He went to Rice and then transferred to University of Houston. I was intrigued by him. It was nice to see him flash. I'm pointing to the University of Houston, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube.
That's what I thought you were. Yeah. That's right. No, listen, and then there's also rumors about wanting Stetson to show some flash, and maybe that the reason they're holding out hope for him is down the road they may want to get something in trading for him.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he is a 2-time national champion, came out of Georgia. His story is pretty phenomenal. I did interview him, I want to say Wednesday or Tuesday of last week at the Rams facility, because I'm always curious, that everyone's talking about the comeback of Aaron Donald, which we don't know any new details. New details have not emerged. There's some rumors flying around maybe right before Melbourne, but I don't know if he's even going to be, if he does come back, if he comes back before Melbourne.
We went through this with JJ Watt for about a half season, and it gets to the point, and it was kind of in a similar situation because the Texans' defensive line is really good, just like the Rams are just loaded with great. The Rams are already loaded with great defensive linemen, and then you freaking Myles Garrett. But there is a part of it where. Yeah, it's. I don't know how Rams fans feel about it, but we got to the point here where, especially when Will Anderson was playing the way he was playing, and you have Danielle Hunter, that you kind of just lose your appetite for it. You're like, all right, these guys are all right, and whatever. I don't know, man. But like Aaron Donald never had the injury issues that J.J. Watt did. I think that my expectation of Aaron Donald would be that he would come back, and if anything, I mean, we all know he's in incredible shape. And getting into football shape, I think it's not as big a deal if you're Aaron Donald, who only has to come in for 15 to 20 snaps when he first starts playing. We've seen that and Ndamukong Suh wasn't in nearly the kind of condition that Aaron Donald is in, and he came in halfway through the season a couple years in a row and did pretty well. So I think
that's interesting. Wait, so because you think about quarterbacks sort of unretiring, coming back after a year or two, but a defensive tackle, and that was the position that you played, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how
Like as far as like getting back into the
Not
flow
even
of
just getting
everything
back
and
into like
oh,
going into your first game after not
yeah.
playing for 2 years. Is that something to be concerned by?
I think it's not as much. It's and all the rules are different for Aaron Donald because he's such
Yeah,
a freak
right.
of nature. Okay,
Totally.
it's a really good question, and I think that because I've long advocated this, I feel like every defensive lineman that's a good pass rusher because that's where you can play rotationally, and it's not as much of a beating up your body. You know, like it's like not that Aaron Donald can't play the run, but they could when you ease people back in, if you're going in on passing downs, that's not nearly as physically brutal. You don't get, you're not getting run blocked. You're just getting one-on-one pass blocks, hopefully, because you've got all these other pass rushers on the defensive line. That part of it, in the kind of shape that Aaron Donald is in, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I've long advocated defensive linemen like, man, the last couple of years, if you're not quite sure, just wait until midway through the season and sign with a contender. And James Harrison did it with the Steelers there. And you remember, I don't know if you remember, it was classic James Harrison. They signed him saying, hey, we're not even going to play until halfway through the season because we want to keep you fresh. And then he got pissed that they weren't playing him early in the season and just got all combative with Mike Tomlin.
But that's the part that's crazy, Seth, is because, it's Aaron Donald who's never received one-on-one attention before, right? He's been the entire game plan. And now, like, you have to game plan for two guys that you have to double. I mean, there's only 5 offensive linemen.
Yeah, right. And or what you have to do too is, and because it's not just Myles Garrett. There's just so many good players on that Rams defensive line. But even if it is just those two, you have to end up. You got to keep a tight end in. You got to chip one of them. You got to keep a tight end to block the other one. And now you've got Trent McDuffie behind you, to handle any kind of so it gets really, really difficult from a numbers standpoint for offensive coordinators to figure out, all right, my quarterback's back there and he'll be protected, but he's only got 2 or 3 receivers out on routes at any given time. And it just transforms everything. So like in Houston, we have Myles Garrett and we have Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. And that's the amount of times that those guys are both getting a chip and a tight end. It's a lot more than other teams, and it makes those guys on the back end that much better. I don't mean to put any pressure on Aaron Donald, but if he cares at all about Rams fans, he'll sign because I feel like it's a guaranteed Super Bowl appearance with a likely defeat by the Houston Texans. So.
Well, all that means is you probably are going to have to join me again next week. I'll check with the higher ups and see if I can, talk to your assistant and we can book you again next week. Because honestly, your perspective, your analysis, obviously we like, I think the biggest conversation point, while a lot of people want to talk about the Rams offense is the defense. And we spent a lot of time talking about Ty Simpson, and for good reason. But the way that this Rams defense in this division, in the NFC West, a lot to discuss. Okay.
Yeah. It's a brutal division. I hated being in it last year.
I appreciate you. Seth Payne, go check out his work. You're so great. The host of Believe in Texans, but you're on I always want to say Twitter. I really need to be cooler.
The Youngs are saying Twitter still too. So
is that maybe? Okay. Yeah. Well, anyways, find him on X. And hopefully we can get him back next week. But Seth, we really appreciate your perspective on this. Thank you.
My pleasure, Erin.
All right.